Hi everyone. Welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. All the details are in our video, and we're diving into the latest whispers that have the industry buzzing. Don't forget to subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets and share this video before we continue. Thank you so much for your support and for being here with us tonight. A fresh wave of rumors has swept across social media, and at the center of it all are two names that Turkish television fans know by heart: Ebru Şahin and Akınözü. The talk isn't about their legendary on-screen chemistry or a new project. This time the noise is about alleged harsh words exchanged behind closed doors, words that are being attributed to someone very close to Ebru, her mother. Neither Ebru nor Akın has issued any statement, and that silence has only made the whispers grow louder. Still, the idea of a private rebuke between families has stirred intense curiosity, especially given how their friendship has evolved, matured, and endured over the years. According to the chatter, Ebru's mother confided to trusted friends that her daughter has been quietly overwhelmed by the relentless pace of her recent commitments. They say the pressure of global deals, back-to-back sets, and non-stop appearances pushed her to the edge emotionally. And the sting, according to these claims, is that when she needed extra support, Akın wasn't there in the way the family hoped he would be. The suggestion landed like a tremor in fan circles, because it hints at fragility where people have long assumed strength. This is a pair whose closeness has always been the subject of fascination. Their bond was first cemented in the eyes of the public with that undeniable screen magic, but away from the spotlights they were also seen taking breaks together, sharing quiet escapes, and meeting each other's families. Friends of both say that the families are familiar and respectful toward one another, and that the two stars have remained part of each other's inner lives even during long stretches of work. Perhaps that's why this rumor feels particularly sharp. It contradicts the image of two people who have always looked out for one another. The words attributed to Ebru's mother spread fast because of their rawness. In the version that has been repeated the most, she's said to have confided something along the lines of, "You stepped back when my daughter was going through a heavy time, and she didn't say a single bad word about you." Whether the phrasing is exact or embellished along the way, the sentiment was enough to set social feeds on fire. Fans combed through old photos and interviews, searching for signs and missing pieces, convinced that something was brewing beneath the surface. Their silence only stirred the pot. The lack of a denial, the absence of a post with a friendly caption or a new picture together, suddenly all of it was being read as the calm before an inevitable storm. People started asking when they were last seen side by side, and why recent events showed them on separate paths. Others cautioned patience, noting that not every friendship is meant to be broadcast day and night, especially when the work is so consuming. There's no denying that Ebru's calendar has been full to the brim. She has been juggling shoots, rehearsals, ambassador duties with international brands, and high-profile appearances that demand energy even when the cameras are off. Those close to her insist she's holding up and handling the pressure with the same poise that made her a star. Even so, they admit that long stretches of relentless work can leave anyone exhausted, and it would be natural to lean on familiar shoulders in those moments. On the other side, people who know Akın emphasize how deliberately he has protected his private life in recent months. Far from the urban whirlwind, he's been carving out time in quieter corners of nature, hiking, writing, training, and being with family. He has always been someone who recharges away from the headlines, and his recent posts, sparse but serene, reflect that rhythm. Supporters argue that the reduced frequency of public moments with Ebru could be the byproduct of two busy calendars, not a reflection of distance in the heart. Even as reasonable explanations circulate, the so-called mother's rebuke keeps trending in some corners of social media, resurfacing each time an editorial or fan page revisits the topic. People insist that if the comment didn't ring true on some level, it wouldn't have spread with such speed. But others highlight how easy it is for a private remark to be misquoted, misremembered, or exaggerated, especially when it passes through multiple whispers before it lands online. What remains undeniable is the media's appetite for a definitive answer. Did Ebru's mother really say those words? Did she express disappointment at a perceived absence during a difficult spell? Or has a small observation been inflated into a storm by bored timelines and late-night speculation? Editors are refreshing feeds, reporters are making calls, and fans are waiting for even a single sentence from either of the two to settle the matter. Then came a new wave, a sharper, more pointed version of the same rumor, one that framed the story as a stinging critique aimed right at Akın. According to this iteration, the alleged comment didn't emerge casually but was voiced in a private, emotional conversation among Ebru's closest circle. Once that detail entered the narrative, the temperature rose. People took sides. Some posted long threads defending Akın's right to protect his own mental health and pace. Others insisted that true friendship means showing up visibly when the pressure is highest. In those louder whispers, the line attributed to Ebru's mother appears in a slightly different form. She was carrying everything on her shoulders, and still she chose not to say a negative word about you, even when you were missing. The supposed compassion for her daughter and the implied critique of Akın fused into a single, shareable sentiment. Within hours, it was trending. And with every repost came fresh interpretations. Long-hidden tensions, unspoken expectations, the complicated knots inside a bond shaped by fame. Context matters, of course. Ebru has been on a sprint, professionally. Offers arrive one after another, each with a timeline and a set of demands that are hard to ignore. Her advocates say that she is masterful at maintaining grace under fire, but that there are nights when even the strongest need someone to lean on, quietly and without fanfare. Those same voices emphasize that her family, ever protective and close-knit, has been present throughout, offering steadiness in a world that rarely stops moving. Just as loudly, another group pushes back. They remind everyone that Akın has never been a fan of performative support. When he shows up, he tends to do it privately, without the social media glow. He has always been the kind of friend who prefers a phone call over a post, a quiet visit over a public display. They argue that expecting him to parade his loyalty is unfair and that distance online doesn't necessarily reflect distance in life. In their eyes, the lack of recent joint appearances might mean nothing more than overlapping responsibilities and the inevitable ebb and flow of adult friendships. It's important to remember how far back this connection goes. Their on-screen work didn't just make them household names. It created an image of harmony that fans carried with them long after the credits rolled. Studios and brands leaned into their chemistry, memes celebrated their smallest gestures, and everyone treated their off-screen friendship as a steady constant. For many, that context makes it harder to accept any narrative of friction. For others, it adds pressure. The higher the pedestal, the longer the fall when real life asserts itself. Producers and insiders admit that they, too, are watching the discourse. Not because a project is at risk, nothing has been announced, but because the public's perception can shape the arc of what comes next. Friendly reunions feel more magical when people believe in the bond, and even the rumor of tension can cast a shadow. If there is a message that the industry keeps repeating, it's that a lack of proof leaves only noise. And yet, here we are, still parsing facial expressions in old interviews, still counting the days since the last photo. As for timelines, the speculation hinges on recent months, a string of international appearances for Ebru and a more meditative stretch for Akın. He has been spotted in the countryside, staying active, pouring energy into training, and sharing occasional glimpses of quiet mornings that look like they were lifted from a postcard. If you ask his defenders, that's self-care, not absence. If you ask his critics, that's deliberate distance at a time when someone he cares about needed him to be close. When you gather all of this, the long history, the mutual admiration, the shared successes, it becomes nearly impossible to reach a neat conclusion. The alleged remark from Ebru's mother might be a true snapshot of a private worry or a misheard fragment that took on a life of its own. Until someone breaks the silence, mystery is the only constant. So the cameras remain pointed at doors they might walk through, the microphones are ready for a sound bite, and everyone is bracing for either a quiet dismissal or a gentle clarification that sets the record straight. Meanwhile, tabloids continue to circle the same point, that a complaint with intimate contours has spilled into public view. New tellings of the same story keep adding layers. Some insist the tone was sorrowful rather than angry, others say it was the candid frustration of a mother watching her daughter burn the candle at both ends. Each retelling nudges the narrative toward a slightly different conclusion. Each thread gathers its own chorus of believers. Whichever version you encounter, they all share a core image. Ebru, exhausted yet composed, carrying a workload that could flatten anyone, and Akın, apart but not necessarily absent, moving at a pace that suits him rather than the public's expectation. Somewhere between those two portraits lies the truth. Maybe the crux of the tension is as ordinary as a missed call, a misread message, or a postponed plan. Maybe it's nothing at all, just the result of too many eyes looking for fault lines where there are none. One last element keeps complicating the picture: the passage of time without a joint appearance. Every week without a shared frame is treated as proof by those who want a rift to exist. But the counterargument remains stubborn: two people can be as close as ever and still choose privacy, schedules can clash without malice, and a friendship can survive the strain of distance if it's built on respect. If anything, the quieter weeks might be a sign of a bond resilient enough to withstand the noise. For now, every corner of the industry seems to be waiting for them to take a step, any step, that lightens the tension. A simple photo, a gracious word at an event, a backstage anecdote, any of these could reset the narrative. Or perhaps the next step is to say nothing at all and let the rumor run out of breath, as so many do. Either way, the fascination is real, and the emotion it stirs speaks to how invested people remain in the story of Ebru Şahin and Akın Akınözü. This brings us to the end of our video. If you enjoyed being here with Turkish Spotlight Secrets, please subscribe and share this story with friends who are following every twist and turn. We'll keep listening, keep watching, and bring you the moment anything changes. Until then, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.